Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Talk on every Sunday at noon. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. I am proud to be sponsored by BetterHelp, BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. They are an online counseling service, so they connect you with online counselors in your state. So what you would do is you would go down to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. John will put it down into the description. And you get in there and you answer a bunch of questions, and then they will place you with somebody in your state. Everyone on there is a master's level or a PhD level, and they are licensed. So that is cool. And if you are in another country, and you can get onto betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. They will set you up with a counselor here in the States. You guys will have to figure out the time difference and all that sort of good stuff, but you can get into a counselor pretty much ASAP, which is great because I'm hearing things, like I said, from people in the UK going, oh, it's an 8-month wait. And I'm like, gah! So betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. It's down in the description. Also, books I recommend to read: The Highly Sensitive Person's Guide to Dealing with Toxic People by Shahida Arabi. Love, love, love this book. Recommended to my clients. She is awesome. Also, Susanna Quintana, You're Still That Girl. So she is awesome. She is just an amazing woman. You can get this book on her website, which is SusannaQuintana.com. She is your chick. My books are available on chrisgodinez.com. I will sign them. I will give you a personalized little saying or something. chrisgodinez.com. You can get What's Wrong with Your Dad, which is about my journey dealing with my crazy family. And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. Why some people stay in abuse and other people don't. So those are my 2 books. Also, these are still in my hallway. These are available on chrisgodinez.com for $24.99. Shipping is included. Please get them out of my hallway. Thank you. And these 20 ounces, love them. Anyway, it's so funny. My nephew, he was like, can I have 6 of them to go camping? I'm like, sure, here you go. So anyway, he loves them. That's his favorite mug. All right, so there's that. Okay, so today's topic is what is the difference between helping, enabling, and codependency? So I wanted to clear that up because that has been a recent question. So and there's differences in both. So the easy answer is if it's not hurting you, then it's okay to help. If you are feeling resentful or obligated or fearful or guilty, then don't do it. So remember the fog. So fear, obligation, guilt. If you are feeling fearful, if you don't help, they're going to reject you. Obligated, oh my God, I owe them, I have to do this for them. Or guilty, oh my gosh, if I don't do this for them, I'm a bad person and I shoulda, coulda, woulda. So if you're feeling any of those, do not do it. That is a good clue not to do the help part. So here are some articles that I got off of Psychology Today. This is by Mariana Pogosian. She's a PhD, and this is called In Helping Others, You Help Yourself, which is very true. Consider the positive feelings you experienced the last time you did something good for someone else. Perhaps it was the satisfaction of running an errand for your neighbor, or a sense of fulfillment from volunteering at a local organization, or the gratification of donating to a good cause. Or maybe simply just the joy of having helped out a friend. This warm glow of pro-sociality is thought to be one of the drivers of generous behaviors in humans, which is good because it literally takes a village, right? You know, it's like if we didn't have generosity, if we didn't have the willingness to help each other out, we'd be in a world of hurt. We really would. Research has found many examples of how doing good in big ways or small not only feels good, but also does us good. So I think with survivors of abuse, we get screwed up with that because we get a family that tells us, no, you must. So it's masturbation. It's what Carl Rogers called masturbation. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, must thinking. You must do this. You must do that. And it really is not healthy. So if you're doing it because you want to, that's great. If you're doing it because you must, not so great. So, and we get screwed up with that because we get the codependency of having to caretake, family that is unhealthy, either mentally or they're addicted or, whatever. And so we get into that I must do this. I must do that. I must. And that is really not healthy thinking. So we're going to talk more about that. Hang on. Okay, not only big or small, it doesn't feel good, it just also does us good. For instance, the well-being boosting and depression lowering benefits of volunteering have been repeatedly documented. So somebody who's suffering depression, somebody who's stuck, who wants to do good but don't know what to do and wants to improve their life, they go and volunteer, and that makes them boost up those endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they feel good because they're doing a service. So remember, givers gain, people, givers gain. However, you don't want to give to the point where you are keeling over. We're going to talk about that with the enabling part. So yes, volunteering, helping other people out, it does jack up our endorphins, which then plays into codependency, because if we're doing it to feel good all the time, that is also not healthy. It's fine if we're doing it so that we can, boost ourselves out of a stuck place or maybe get out of depression temporarily, but not if we're leaning on that like this, going, okay, if I volunteer, I'm going to feel great. If I give everything, I'm going to feel great. Well, because if that goes away, you go kathunk. So there's limitations. So, but anyway, it does. There's study after study out there that shows that benefits of volunteering, it can be anything from a food kitchen all the way to an animal shelter, depending on what your interest is. It increases happiness. Moreover, there is now neural evidence from MRI studies suggesting a link between generosity and happiness in the brain. For example, donating money to a charitable organization activates the same mesolimbic regions of the brain that respond to money rewards or sex. In fact, the mere intent and commitment to generosity can stimulate neurochange and make people happier. Again, caveat. Where we get into trouble, though, as having been raised by abusers, is we make that our identity, or we think that we have to do that all the time, and we have to give. We don't. It's got to be a choice. It cannot be an obsession or a compulsion. It regulates our emotions and other people's emotions. When we are happy, sad, or frustrated, or anxious, we find ways of managing our feelings to meet the demands of our environment. At times, though, when the weight of our emotions becomes too much to bear, we turn to others for support. Social regulation of emotions is a key component in our relationship. So in other words, volunteering helps our mental regulation. It helps our emotional regulation. We're out with others. We are, which we all have not been doing because of the stupid pandemic. So this is why the mental health has gone to hell in a handbasket, aside from the fact this country actually doesn't have any mental health mandates. But the point being is that when we're not around others, we are pack animals. And we depend on other people. We need that interaction. Even introverts need that interaction every once in a while. I'm not saying every day, but even introverts need that social interaction. They need to be around people. We need to be around people because we're social animals. We really are. And volunteering is a great way to do that. And it also helps regulate the emotions because we're around other people. We get a reality check. Am I off on this? What do you think about this situation? Am I off on this? Hang on. Sorry. Over a 3-week period, and this is the study they did, participants were provided with an anonymous online environment where they could share their personal stories of stressful life events. They could also provide emotional support to other participants, which I love because this is what you guys do here, is you're like emotional support for people on here, which is great. And they helped each other by identifying potential distortions in thinking, just like I said, checking in. Am I right on this? Suggested reappraisal strategies or providing words of acceptance. Responses were rated by their degree of helpfulness, and participants were given the opportunity to express their gratitude or for the acceptance or reappraisal messages that they received from others. The results showed that helping others to regulate their emotions predicted better emotional and cognitive outcomes for those participants who were giving the help. Moreover, because of heightened levels of self-focused attention are common in depression. The more people helped others, the more their helping behavior predicted a reduction in their own depression. thanks to the use of reappraisal in their own daily lives. So, in other words, we tend to teach that which we need to learn. And in the beginning of therapy, I found myself doing that a lot. I mean, I'd already learned it, but it hadn't quite completely sunk in totally. And then I would teach it and I would be like, oh, damn, well, I need to apply that, don't I? Okay. And it makes you reassess and, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the next most enlightened thing? Am I doing the next? Do you see where I'm going with that? So that's kind of the benefit of helping, is that we teach things, we support, we say things that are wise and sage-like and brilliant, and then we take a look at that and we go, oh, that can apply to my life too. Oh, damn. Here I am teaching this person, but I can apply this to my life. So that is the benefit of helping, like just generous helping, not codependency, not enabling. Okay, hold on. We're getting there. Okay, hang on. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Okay, it affected their mood and subjective happiness. Okay, so interesting messages that used other focused language, second person pronouns such as you and your were considered more helpful and garnered more gratitude from participants. In fact, using other focused language not only helped the people in need, but those who were helping. The study suggests that when providing emotional support to others, trying to fully take on their perspective, obviously, can increase reappraisal and lead to a better psychological outcome for those who are providing the support. Yeah, so helping is okay. Helping is what is needed in a society to function. Helping is the oil that keeps the machine going. Different from enabling. Okay, so this next one is how to, well, let me finish up on this helping concept. It's good for us. It makes us feel good. Why do I do this every week for free? Because I enjoy it. And why do I enjoy it? Because I help people. And people let me know I'm helping them. So it's not just, me talking and not getting any feedback as to whether or not I'm helping or not. So it brings me great joy to do this. This is why I do this. So helping is an okay thing. If, however, I was doing it to the point where my family was being sacrificed, my well-being was being sacrificed, my financial was being sacrificed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, now you're getting into a not healthy range of helping. So let's slide into enabling. Okay, let's talk about enabling. So enabling is usually associated with addiction, right? So when somebody is deep in their addiction, the people around them have a really bad tendency to enable them. So in other words, they're living with an addict. The addict is constantly asking for money, but they don't use the money to go buy, pay the rent or buy food or anything. They go use it to go buy drugs, but the family keeps giving them money. That's enabling. You're basically helping them to kill themselves is what you're doing. And so often I will hear the family members go, but I love them and I don't want them to die. And I'm like, they're going to if you keep letting them go get heroin, or whatever their drug of choice is. And it's a guilt thing. It's they're wanting to, there's that word again, assuage their own guilt. And somebody was like, think of it as ass wage. I'm like, oh, okay. So they're wanting their guilt to go away. And instead of dealing with that guilt and dealing with whatever they're thinking and feeling, and oftentimes it's apparent, they're, making themselves, holding themselves 100% responsible for why the child has gone off and become an addict, when in fact it may have nothing to do with them. So, or it might, but they don't want to think about that. So instead they want to throw money at the issue and they don't want to deal with what is the real reason why this person is using. What are you thinking and feeling? Why are you feeling so guilty? What is that all about? So enabling is when you kind of turn a blind eye to whatever the behavior is and you just keep allowing them to do it. Flying monkeys do that with narcissists all the time. So let's talk about that. Okay. Okay, so this is by Jade Wu. She's a PhD, the savvy psychologist, how to recognize and correct enabling behavior. When I was younger, a story about my favorite cousin, a beautiful young woman who had married a man with an alcohol and gambling problem, worked its way through the family grapevine. He took her hard-earned money and gambled it away. He often stumbled home in a drunken stupor. My cousin sacrificed her own future for him, paid off his debts, nursed his health issues, and tried every which way to help him overcome his addiction. Her situation is not unusual. Many people try to help a loved one make major life changes and fail. I've met people who've done things like try to help a spouse quit smoking by dunking their cigarettes in water, or trying to get their roommate out of an abusive relationship by secretly sabotaging their dates. Their sympathy overflows and they want to help their loved one. They say, if I don't help, what will become of them? So fear-based. That's what enabling is based in, is fear. But what my cousin and those like her was doing was not helping. She was just enabling. And she is not alone. A study on people with alcohol dependence in their partners found the majority of partners engaged in enabling behaviors, such as lying and covering for them, or threatening to leave but not following through. So when we have been in an abusive relationship, how many of us made excuses for our abuser or our parents? I hear that all the time too. My parents were perfect. My parents were this, my parents were that. And then, okay, you're telling me that your parents are perfect, and yet you've got this incredible anger towards them. So what's that about? So, or, the abuser is abusive. Oh, no. He or she was just having a bad day. Oh, well, they've got a bad family. Well, they're really stressed out. Those are all excuses. Those are all excuses for abusers. That's enabling behavior. It's denial, and it's deadly, 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 deadly. That's what gets targets of abuse killed, because the behavior just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And the target of abuse just keeps making excuses while they're still in that denial phase, until they finally kind of go, wait a minute, this is not getting better. This is not good, All right, so back to this. Okay, covering up for them, threatening to leave, but not following through. My cousin's husband never did quit drinking or gambling. At some point, she did leave him and is now doing well. But I can't help but be curious about how things would have gone if they'd both known the difference between enabling and helping when they first met. With him, it probably would not have made a difference, just because when somebody's deep into an addiction, they mimic narcissism, because it's all about their wants, their needs, their drug, their habit. And gambling is an addiction. Absolutely. Alcohol is an addiction. Absolutely. So, and with a narcissist, what they do to us is that intermittent positive rewards, which causes us to become addicted to those times when everything is great. So this is what, like I mentioned, I think a week or two ago, it's like when things are great, it's wonderful. Oh my God, you're on the moon. Everything's wonderful. But when it's bad, it's bad. And then we start living for those times when it's good. And that becomes very addictive. And we do fall into that enabling behavior because it is an addiction. So, we are not addicted to the abuse. Let me make that perfectly clear. What we are addicted to are the times when they're normal, or when they're kind, or when they're loving, supposedly. But remember, abusers don't really love. It's an act. It's a game. It's not real. And that's hard for us to get. Okay. All right. Okay. She's doing well. She left him, blah, blah. Okay. What is enabling and why is it unhelpful? You can enable someone's bad behavior in many ways, but it all boils down to the things you do to keep them in the status quo. Usually enabling happens accidentally. You were trying to help, but after months or years of trying, one day you wake up and you realize that your college-age son is still irresponsible with money, or your friend is still blackout drinking. Do any of these enabling behaviors often disguised, or are they often disguised as helpful behaviors? Do any of these enabling behaviors, often disguised as helpful behaviors, strike a chord? Yes, they do. How many of us, seriously, show of hands, how many of us go, I can help them? They're just misunderstood. They didn't get enough love. It's like we've all done that. We have all done that. I did that with my dad. It was like, oh, damn, he had a really bad childhood. Well, maybe if I'm just patient, no, get the hell out. By the time I was 17, I was like, oh, bye-bye, because I figured it out. I was like, no, this person really is not interested in changing. And that's where we get stuck. We get stuck in hoping that they're going to change, that they're going to get better. Remember, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that we can fix them. We cannot. It is beyond our means to fix them. It is not our job. Okay, hold on. Okay. We clean up for them, including shielding the person from the natural negative consequences of their own behavior. A parent calls their daughter's college professor to argue about her failing exam. A partner lies to his in-laws about his wife's drug problem to protect from embarrassment. A sibling pays her brother's rent whenever his funds fall short because he regularly puts all of his money into gambling. Some of these helping behaviors might be okay if they happened only once and came with other more concrete forms of help. Well, now when dealing with an abuser, there is no help. There is no hope. They don't change, guys. They don't. You could literally have the gods of psychiatry come down and work on a narcissist, and they still would not change. The behavior would still be there. Okay, hang on. Blah, blah, blah. And one of the favorite games that narcissists love to play is they refuse to work. They refuse to get a job. They refuse to do anything, and they're always constantly broke. Always, that's one extreme or the other. They either hoard money or they spend it hand over fist, and they're always broke, and they're looking to you for the money bags kind of thing. So some of the enabling behaviors, some of these sound like helping behaviors. Okay, but if these rescues happen repeatedly, all you're doing is preventing your loved one from learning the cause and effect pattern of their behavior. They don't get the opportunity to grow from their mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. So now that's in a healthy, normal person. With a narcissist, they don't grow. They don't grow. They don't get it. Literally, the bottom is not ever bad enough for them. They go to their grave behaving like jackwagons. So giving them non-specific help like money doesn't support a well-defined goal. Not sticking to your words about boundaries and limits. Boundaries and limits. When we allow someone to march over our boundary, we are showing them what we will put up with. And we're basically saying, go ahead, use me as a doormat. So that's why boundaries are huge. You must have boundaries. So Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker, Codependent No More, Beyond Codependent No More, both by Melanie Beattie. A list of deal breakers. What will you absolutely not put up with? And there's a whole bunch you shouldn't put up with. You shouldn't put up with somebody calling you names, disrespecting you, lying to you, rewriting history, cheating, isolating you from your family and friends, screaming at your family and friends. There's a whole bunch of deal breakers that you need to put up. And when they cross over it, bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Go play in traffic. Bye-bye. Be done. Be done, be done, be done. Okay. Not sticking to your boundaries and your limits. Flip-flopping between shaming them and making excuses for them. So shaming does not work with a narcissist or an abuser because they have no shame. And if they do feel shame, they will lash out immediately. So one of the theories is that they're just filled with shame. I don't necessarily believe that. I don't think they have that emotional cog. I really don't. But one of the other things that I've seen them do is as soon as they're called on their behavior, what do? They lash out and they punish. They lash out and they punish. How dare you see me for what I really am? How dare you see this? How dare you not tell me I'm perfect? That kind of thing. And they will punish, and that makes them very dangerous. So this leads into another comment that I've had twice this week from new listeners. I want to confront them. I want to confront them. I want to, tell them off. I want to get satisfaction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, Julie, thank you so much. I want to get satisfaction. I want to tell them. It's not safe, guys. It's not safe. If you are dealing with a dark triad, okay, narcissistic, psychopathic, I need a bigger desk. Oh my Lord. Narcissistic, psychopathic, and Machiavellian, which is control freak, and you tell them off, how exactly do you think this is going to end? It's not going to end well. They're dangerous. I cannot tell you the number of times I have warned somebody, do not confront them. Get the bleep away from them. Seriously, get away from them. Get safe. That is the best course of action. And then no contact. And they'll go against my advice and they'll confront and this and that. And the next thing you know, they've got a crazy stalker. So you don't want that. Remember, with abusers, the win is everything, and they don't care how they get it. And they don't care if they blow themselves up in the process because they can't even conceive that they're not on the right side of the law. They think that they can just march in front of a family court judge or whatever and say their pity story, and that the judge is going to go, well, of course, Bob, it's you. I'm going to give it all to you. No, it doesn't work that way. But they don't understand that. And they're vindictive and they're dangerous. And I cannot stress that enough. My husband was just telling me a story he read in the news about some domestic violence thing where the woman came out and found the tires all slashed and like body parts, like somebody's, I don't know if it was animal or human body parts on the ground next to the car. This is what they do, guys. They're not to be messed with. Do not confront them. You're not going to get the satisfaction you think you are. So if you feel the need to confront, write, and burn an angry letter to them, good, the bad, the ugly, the horrific, and at the very, very end, take your power back. Nope, you're not going to abuse me anymore. Thanks for playing. We're done. Goodbye. Go pound sand, whatever it is you need to say, and then burn it. That is the safest way to confront, because confronting them is not going to get you what you want. They're not going to have a V8 moment and go, oh my God, I should have treated you better. And oh, I'm so sorry. So, sorry does not in their vocabulary. A real apology does not ever leave their lips. So you do not want to confront. And I have been doing this since, 2006. So I'm not just telling you that because I'm some sort of crazy pacifist. I'm not. My initial instinct is fight. I will fight first, then I'll go to flight. If I can't fix it, I'm going to run. So, but I'm telling you this for your own safety. You do not confront an abuser. You do not. And one of the people that mentioned it was so angry because they're like, I'm so tired of everybody saying that. Well, we're saying it because we know. It's like Shahida's got experience in this. I've got experience in this. Susanna Quintana's got experience in it. We're all giving you the same advice because A, we have been there, done that. B, I've got the training and all of the studies and everything else to back my behind up. We're not just saying that because we want people to be wimps. We're saying that because we don't want people to get killed. Okay. So no, you do not confront an abuser ever. You just get the heck away from them as quickly and quietly and safely as you can. And then you get a restraining order if they start harassing you. Absolutely. Or slicing your tire and leaving body parts. What the heck? Seriously. Okay. Okay. Flip-flopping between shaming them and making excuses for them. And we all do that. We all made excuses for them. I made excuses for my dad. Susanna made excuses for her husband. It's what we do because we have a hard time accepting that they're not that love bombing mirror image that they initially projected. Okay, you cannot control others' behaviors. It's not your job to. It is not your job. You've got to let go of control. You got to stop trying to enable. This goes for parents whose kids are drug addicts. I mean, you can offer suggestions. You could encourage them to go get into an inpatient program. You can do all of that, but you can't control them because I can't tell you the number of times people have gone, because like when I worked in the homeless shelter, we would have, the parents would finally intervene, but they would do it in the wrong way. They would send their kid to like one of the ritzy, I don't know, foo-foo, 28-day places, inpatient detox. And the kid would be back at the homeless shelter within like 2 months of leaving because they didn't want to change. They didn't. And parents kept giving him money. And so they kept buying heroin and crack and all that sort of really awful stuff. So basically enabling is dangerous in a toxic relationship, obviously. This is now talking in this section about what to do if it is not a toxic relationship. So in other words, instead of shaming or guilt tripping, you tell them why you want them to change. This will not work with an abuser. Let me be clear. This will not work with an abuser. You could tell them until the cows come home and they will not get it. And this is what we do though. We tell them, well, I want this behavior and I want this and I want that. And can't you see you're hurting me? No. And if they do see, they don't care. They don't have that cog there to care. So in a healthy person, you can celebrate successes with them. So for example, when I quit smoking, it's like my friends and John were all like, yay, because we want you around and we don't want you to drop dead of lung cancer. And that was, enough for me to stop, and believe me, I loved smoking my clove cigarettes. Oh my God. So that was a really hard one to give up because it tasted good and it was a stress reliever and the whole thing. But you know what? It's like, I didn't want to die because I love my family and friends. So, and that was a good encouragement. It's like, we don't want you dead. Provide emotional, I really need to get new freaking contacts. Provide reasonable logistical support and attention in a healthy relationship. Ask them if they're willing to make a plan, that kind of thing. With a healthy relationship. With a narcissist, you don't. You cannot ask for and get what you want or need out of the relationship. Okay, this one is called How to Conquer Codependency. And this is by Sharon Martin. She's a licensed social worker. This is also, all of these were found on Psychology Today. Okay, if you struggle with codependency and wonder if you're codependent or just have questions about codependency, this article is for you. Codependency is a focus on other people's problems, feelings, needs, and wants while minimizing or ignoring our own. Codependency, other people, is more important than themselves and prioritize taking care of others in order to feel needed, loved, worthwhile. While we all need and rely on other people, codependents are overly dependent on others emotionally. So a hue and cry that I often hear is, if they're not okay, I'm not okay. Nope. If they're not okay, and you're still okay. And that's a hard concept to get when you've been raised in a family where we have been encouraged to constantly caretake, constantly caretake, constantly caretake. Okay, hang on, getting back to this. Okay, they need others to tell them what their feelings and needs, that their feelings and needs are valid and that their opinions are acceptable and that they are good enough. So codependency is where we rely on outside sources, other esteem. So it's either this, which is really unhealthy, or it's this, which is really unhealthy, because if this person goes away, you go kathunk. Other esteem is outside, external things, external people from you. So that's a thing with codependency, is that there's no trusting of the gut. If you are codependent, you don't trust your gut. You have to constantly get validation and acceptance from outside, and you don't want that. You want the inside. You want the cheerleader. You don't want the critic. You want the cheerleader. Go you, you're fabulous. I love you. Good job. Yes, this is a good choice. Hail, hello, gut. Let's ask the gut. Gut, yes or no? Is this a good choice? Yes. Okay, good, great. Then we're going to do it. So you got to start trusting your gut. You got to start playing with that. So when we're codependent, we don't trust that. Some of us, when we come out of a particularly controlling relationship, especially a parent that was incredibly controlling, infantilizing, all of that. I think I've talked about that before, where they hobble the person to the point where they don't allow them to do their own laundry or their own checking account or their own, driving or anything like that. They try to hobble them so that they're completely dependent on that. And then they get out of that relationship. They come out of it going, I don't even know what my favorite food is. I've never been allowed to have an opinion. So it's really important to start playing with, what do you like? What do you want? What makes you happy? Not needing approval from anybody else. What makes you happy? What do you need? That's really important. And start realizing what your own likes and your own dislikes are. And that's huge in coming out of codependency, because how often have the abusers told us what to think, what to eat, how to dress, how to wear our hair, how to speak, how to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important to work on that. So hang on just a second. I'm really thirsty. It's dry today. Oy. Okay. So, all right. Blah. How are we doing on time? Oh, dang it. Okay, I will finish up with this quickly, and then we'll dive into the questions. Okay. They rely on others for their identity and sense of worth. Following are some of the most common symptoms of codependency. You don't need to have them all to consider yourself codependent. I find it helpful to think of codependency on a spectrum. Yes, it is. Some of us experience more symptoms and distress due to codependent traits than others. 1, fixing, helping, or rescuing others gives you a sense of purpose and makes you feel needed or lovable. 2, you focus on other people and their problems and often ignore your own feelings and needs. 3, you may enable, give unsolicited advice, nag, or be controlling. 4, you may feel worried or anxious, guilty, or ashamed. 5, you're self-critical and possibly perfectionistic. Oh, that is something we need to talk about. Perfectionism is something that narcissists demand of their target until they start the devalue and discard. And if we're not perfect, they use that as the excuse that they need to get rid of us because we're broken, right? Alcoholics, addicts also do that of their family and friends. They demand everybody be perfect, especially alcoholic parents. Everybody has to be perfect around them. If somebody makes a mistake, they rub their nose in it. That narcissists do that as well. So it's this perfectionism thing, and we start trying to be perfect. Well, we're not. None of us are perfect here. None of us walk on water unless it's frozen. You know what I'm saying? So we're not ever going to be perfect. Oh, Sherry, thank you so much. We're not ever going to be perfect, but yet they demand that. The parents demand that, and they cause us to demand perfection in ourselves, which is a constant not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. That's the inner critic, not good enough, not good enough. And you got to tell that thing to hit the road. You know, seriously, like, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Seriously, that's what you want. So perfectionism, you want to watch out for that. If you feel like you're doing the perfectionism, you need to start telling yourself, you know what? I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to be good enough. And I'm going to be happy with good enough. And of course, that perfectionism part of you is going to scream and go, no, 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 no. And you're going to have to go, you know what? Hush, 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 hush your tater trap. Good enough. Good enough is good enough. That is something we all need to work on. I still have that every once in a while from my dad. You know, he was an alcoholic. He was an opiate addict. Great combination. And he was an attorney. Don't get me started. But the point I'm trying to make is every once in a while, that perfectionism thing pops up. And I have to be like, stop it. Stand down. We're done. Good enough. I'm happy with good enough. So it's a common thing among survivors. Okay. You feel responsible for everyone and everything. My dad used to tell us that it was our fault that there were starving children in India or China or Ethiopia or whatever country happened to be having a crisis at that time. And we believed him, you know, and it was horrible because, you know, all of this existential guilt over other people's suffering because we didn't want to eat our Brussels sprouts. You know, I mean, they make kids feel guilty and responsible for things that is beyond the kid's means to affect, you know? So that's a cruel thing to do to anybody. You know, it's like, well, this is your fault, even though you had nothing to do with it. And they do that often, like really often. Okay. And it's your fault and you're responsible, even though you have no way to fix it or no way to make it better at the time because you're a child, which I think is a horrible thing to do to children. You don't have a strong sense of who you are, what you like, how you feel, or what matters to you. I just talked about that. You're a people pleaser who will sacrifice what you want and need to avoid upsetting or disappointing others. Not your job. Their emotions are their emotions, you know? So one of the examples of that is that a child wants to get a job and go to school, right? And the parent, whoever is the abuser, is wanting to keep the kid hobbled. So they keep trying to talk them out of it and guilt trip them. Your grades are going to fail. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You can't have the car today. You can't, you know, sabotaging them from getting the job. So that's, you know, and then the fear is, okay, well, I'm getting the job and I'm doing this and I'm working at it and I love it. And mom and dad are giving me guilt trips and they're so sad and this, that. You let them have whatever emotion they're going to have. I worked all the way through college. I worked all the way through my master's degree. I did. I had to, you know, and it's like, okay, so the parents are sad. Not your problem. They're sad because the child is self-supportive. Does anyone else see a problem with that? I do. Do you see where I'm going with that? So you got to do you. You got to look out for you. You've got to take care of you. So they're sad. Let them be sad. That's kind of not the right attitude. If a kid gets a job, the parents should be, go you, you're fabulous. You've got this. You've got this. You can do school and you can work. You've got this. But they didn't, and they won't, because they want to keep the kid hobbled. So be aware of that. Okay. You have trouble setting boundaries and being assertive. Yes, because we're afraid of the consequences. We're afraid of how they're going to react. We're afraid of their anger. We're afraid of their disappointment. We're afraid of their sad. We're afraid of their punishment. We're afraid of whatever they're going to pull to try to stop us from having boundaries. So that's the only people who don't like your boundaries are the ones who keeps crossing them. So take a look at that. Boundaries are a good thing. Healthy, normal people respect boundaries. I swear I will get to the questions in just a minute. I only have a few more to go. Hang on. Okay. You're probably hardworking, overly responsible, and give to the point of exhaustion or resentment. You suppress or numb your feelings and absorb other people's feelings. Well, hello, welcome to being an empath. You have low self-esteem, feel unlovable, or not good enough. The not good enough is very common with us. You want to feel in control and have a hard time adjusting when things don't go according to plan or the way you want. So basically, how do you recover from, I'm skipping a bunch of stuff because we're running out of time and I want to get to the questions. So healing from codependency means rebalancing. Rebalancing. So instead of looking outwards, you have to look inwards. What are your wants? What are your needs? What are your deal breakers? What will you not put up with? What do you want? What do you want? That is the most important thing. You are the most important thing right now, not other people. Instead of focusing so much on what others needs, we must consider our own needs and make them a priority. This doesn't mean that you should never consider other people's needs or take care of them. It just means that it needs to be balanced. Your needs are just as important as others. And if you don't take care of yourself, you'll end up depleted, resentful, and unfulfilled. Healing from codependency includes not only knowing what you need, but asking for it. I'm so glad she brought that up. Survivors have an incredibly difficult time asking for help. We all do. I do. Everybody does. Because we've learned that when we ask for help, it gets ignored. It does. You know, I mean, how many times did I ask for help when my dad was abusing me? Like multiple. Totally ignored. Swept under the rug. Nobody did anything. So that's why at 17, I was like, peace out, people. I'm out of here. Y'all are screwed. You know, so we have a really hard time asking for help because in the past, the toxic people around us either intentionally didn't give help or wouldn't give help for whatever reasons they had. So asking for help, it's important. It's hard to do because we all get to that point where, you know, it's like, I just do this on my own. I'll get this done. I'm not going to rely on any of you. I'm going to get this done. I can rely on me. I can't rely on you. That's what we do. So this has to do with trust. This has to do with finding the right people to ask for help. Obviously, you cannot get help from a toxic person. That's like going to a well that is dry or a well that is salted or a well that is poisoned. You know, you got to learn to ask for help from the people that actually could and would and will give help. And that means trusting your gut. And that means working on self-esteem and boundaries and all of that sort of good stuff to start figuring out what is healthy. What does a healthy person look like? And can I trust them? Okay, I can trust them. Okay, I'm going to ask for help. Small thing, let's see if that works. Oh my gosh, it did. Okay, this is a trustworthy person. I can ask for help from them. So it's a process, guys. It's not like you're going to leave the abusive relationship and suddenly be like, I trust everyone. No. Boundaries, self-esteem, gut work, mirror work, all of that good stuff. Oh, Lord, I know. I'm almost there. Hold on. I swear I'm going to get to the questions. Hang on. Okay. You got to know yourself. Oftentimes we spend so much time thinking about and trying to take care of others or appease others that we lose contact with ourselves. So we need to intentionally explore who we are, what we like, what is important to us, what are our goals. You treat yourself with kindness. Codependents are hard on themselves, self-critical and unforgiving. This is both unwarranted and unhelpful. Instead, we should offer ourselves kindness, acceptance, support, and treating ourselves as if we were a dear friend or a little kid. Self-compassion is another way to value and care for ourselves, and it increases resiliency, motivation, and decreases stress. Okay, so that's, jump back. That's that. So, in conclusion, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. In conclusion, helping is great as long as you are not fearful, obligated, or feeling guilty. And as long as you are doing it for the right reasons. You know, if you're doing it to get your sense of self, that's not a good reason. Enabling is where we think we're helping, but we're not. We're just giving that person money, throwing money at it, and it's not really solving the problem. Codependency is where we put ourselves absolutely on the back burner and everybody else comes first. If they're not okay, I'm not okay. And that's not cool. So we got to work on all of that. Wow. Okay, now questions. Sorry, went a little long on that. But anyway, so the point is you got to figure out why you're giving, why you're doing what you're doing. Is it ultimately helpful or is it enabling? What are the motivations and what else could you do to help this person that does not involve, enabling them? So things to think of. Okay. All right. So questions. Let me get over here. Is tolerating abuse by family members a form of enabling? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So tolerating abuse by family members, you're showing them what you will put up with, and it's enabling, it's absolutely enabling. So, I don't know what the situation is, but yeah, you don't tolerate it. So, for example, let me give you an example in our family. We would go and visit John's family, and unfortunately, there was a raging alcoholic on that side of the family. And he would get just rip roaring drunk and walk around the room and start insulting people. And so I just wouldn't put up with it. And I would tell him it was inappropriate and move the kids away from him, because he would go up to every single kid and tell them something horrible, because he was looking for a reaction, because he was a very sick man. Thankfully, he is now probably in the 7 circles of hell now. But, it's like, you don't put up with it. You call it. And what would end up happening is he would get so rip roaring drunk as eventually they would have to literally carry him out of the family function, because he was just belligerent and angry and yelling and screaming and all sorts of stuff. So no, you don't put up with that stuff. That's allowing it. And it got to the point where, I basically was like, I'm not going over. I'm not interested in seeing this, and I'm not interested in having the kids subjected to this. So no, this is a big old no. So, okay. In regards to boundaries, at what point does allowing people to vent transition from helping to enabling? Glad you asked that. So in therapy, I will allow a person to vent for 1, maybe 2 sessions. And then after that, it's like, okay, we're going back over the same thing. What are you going to do about it? What's the plan? Because I'm not just going to sit here and listen to you piss and whine and moan. I'm not. What's the plan? What do you need to get out of this stuck state? And they don't like it generally. It's like people who are more interested in being victims, they hate that. They get angry. Well, your job is to listen to me. No, my job is to move you forward. This is not moving you forward. How are we going to move you forward? What's the next right step? And if they're, kind of willing to work on that, then they'll kind of go, oh, okay. And then they'll do the next right step, and we'll start talking about how to move forward and out of this and away from this. But somebody who just comes back and same issue over and over and over and over and over, and there's no movement forward, even at your suggestion. Okay, well, what's the next right step? How can you move forward on this? They're not interested. They just want to be victims. And at that point, you're going to have to go, I'm busy. Sorry. Not interested, because then it's no longer helping and it's driving you crazy. So no, never work harder than your client. That's something to keep in mind. Never work harder than your friend. If they're venting and stuff and they're, and it's driving you crazy, you have the right to go, you've talked about this 100,000 million times. What are you going to do different? That's a boundary. It's a boundary, and you have a right to do that. How do we heal and deal with how our parents treated us? How do we let go of the hate? So anger just shows us where we have been hurt. There's nothing wrong with being angry. There is, however, something wrong with being resentful. So resentment is old anger, and it just eats us up alive if we allow it. So one of the ways that I encourage my clients to deal with the anger, and justifiably so, that they have with how they were treated by family and or the abuser or whatever, boss, lover, friends, whoever the abuser was, write and burn an angry letter. Write and burn an angry letter. So you get it out of your head, you get it onto paper. You do not send it. Do not send it. Listen to me now, believe me later. Do not send it. If you want the sensation of having mailed it, you mail it back to yourself. And as soon as you get it, you burn it. So write an angry letter, and let them have it. Let them have it. And it's going to bring up a lot of emotions. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be anger. There's going to be wishfulness. If only, why couldn't you have been sane? Why couldn't you have been healthy? That kind of thing. So, yeah. And that is actually how my first book, What's Wrong with Your Dad, kind of came about. I started writing out everything that happened to me. And then as I was writing it, I went, well, damn, I can help people with this, lets them know they're not alone. So you write it out. You write it out. You get it out of your head. You get it onto paper. You trot it out to the barbecue. You read it out loud once, like a Declaration of Independence, and you burn it and see what's left. And whatever is left, that's what needs to probably be processed with a therapist. Find a good trauma therapist. Absolutely. Okay. Question. We set boundaries with the in-laws after the deal breakers, which changed the relationship with the mother-in-law and sister-in-law, because they can't respect them. Now mother-in-law tries to give money for leverage. Totally common. What should we do? What do we do when she gives the money, and how do we stop it? Well, you can't stop it. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're trying to put strings on it. And if they ever do the whole, well, I gave you all this money, we never asked for it. You did that of your own free will. That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to put strings onto it. So you could either just send the money back to them, not accept it, or accept it and just be like, yeah, you're not controlling me. So, but they do that a lot. They do that. Money is used all the time. I think I did one on inheritance and money not too long ago about how they do that. They give money with the expectation that strings will be attached and you will dance to their tune. Nope, you don't have to. You are under no obligation. Great, you gave me money. Great. Well, no strings over here. Sorry. Teflon. So you just see where I'm going with that. So yeah. So you can accept it or you can send it back to them, but you cannot stop them from doing it. If they're going to send you a check, or if they're going to, you don't have to cash the check, but you can't stop them from doing it. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to try to manipulate however they can try to manipulate, but you don't have to play the game. So there's that. How to help a minor who is being abused by proxy. I want to help, but I also don't want to overstep. Well, okay, and I'm not sure what you mean being abused by proxy. So, I know what being abused by proxy is, but I don't understand what that situation is. When you're dealing with a minor, if it's abuse, if it's specifically physical abuse, you call CPS, you call DCS, Department of Children's Services. The problem is that Department of Children's Services will not do anything about verbal abuse. They don't, because you cannot prove it. There's no bruising. There's no scarring. There's no, usually no witnesses. So that's a really hard one to do. But if you suspect abuse is going on and you suspect it's physical, I would call it into DCS. Absolutely. And it depends on who the abuser is. Is it a parent? Is it somebody with power? Are the parents aware of it? Are they the kind of parent that would care? That's where it gets really dicey with minors. And this is why I hate the fact that minors have absolutely no voice when this stuff happens. So if you have any concerns, call DCS. It's better to err on the side of caution. Okay. My sister accuses me of being bad to her because my sister accuses me of being bad to her. I get a hard time trying to remember if I was like that. It tells me I'm not worthy. Well, I don't know what to tell you, hun. Here's the thing. Gaslighters have a tendency to rewrite history. And if you don't remember saying and doing those things, then trust your gut. You know what I'm saying? Because oftentimes it's like the abuser will say, oh, you said this or you said that, when in fact, either they said it or you never said it, and they're accusing you of something that they did or totally making it up out of whole cloth. So trust your gut. What does your gut tell you? That's the best way to figure out whether, something happened or not. We generally know when we've hurt somebody's feelings. We do, and we don't usually forget things like that, hurting somebody. So I would say trust your gut and really question, is your sister gaslighting you? Is she, accusing you of things she did, or is she just making stuff up out of whole cloth? Because that is something that they do. So, okay, let's see. All right. Oh, wow. Hey, I actually managed to blast through that. Not too bad. Okay. So this week was on codependency, enabling, and helping, and the difference between them, and when it's sliding into enabling, when it's sliding into codependency. Next week, I think what I want to do is I want to talk about the subtle red flags that we have not really talked about. We've been talking about the overt out there red flags, but I want to talk about the subtle red flags that we should be looking for. So, eye rolling, stalling, stonewalling, behaviors, losing things that are important to us, that kind of thing. I want to talk about the subtle red flags that kind of get overlooked. So we're going to talk about that next week. All right, kids, you guys go have a fantabulous week and enjoy the sunshine. It's going to be warm here. And I will talk to you next week about the subtle flags, red flags of abuse. So the subtle red flags. All right. Have a great week, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.